Let's talk about SEO. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. It is essentially a practice of increasing the quality of traffic and the quantity to your website through organic search engine results. So, for example, anything that users type on a search engine like Google, organic search results means that all those listings that you find after searching a term on Google match closely to what you are looking for based on relevance. They're also called as natural search results. As SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, it's essentially a practice of optimizing your search engine results. So you can use a lot of different techniques to make sure that your website is relevant. So when a user searches something, for example, if we go to Google and actually search for fine coffee stores, based on the query that I enter, Google is going to return me results. And the minute I click on those links, those would be organic search results based on the query that I added. Now, all these different links are catered towards me. Now, why is SEO so important? If your website is on the first page of Google, that means it's highly ranked. It will mean that the likelihood of users going to your site increases. And we all know that no one goes to the second or the third page on Google, right? So being on the first page is extremely important. So let's take a look at some practices that we can use to improve our SEO and learn what happens in the background so we understand a bit more. Now, when we do search for fine coffee stores on Google, let's say that Google hires someone called as Mr. Bot, and Mr. Bot's responsibility is to find out and return the most highly ranked pages based on your location, preferences, and so on. So here's what Mr. Bot is going to do. Mr. Bot is first going to crawl all the sites. Mr. Bot is essentially going to find what pages exist, discovered pages, so that it has a huge inventory of different search results. After it crawls all the sites, it is then going to start indexing them. And this is the most important step. As pages do get discovered, Mr. Bot is going to find what's on the page and will try to understand the page. Now, just like you and I are using English as our language of communication, Mr. Bot is going to use HTML as a way to communicate and understand the content on your page. Now, if we do a really good job in our HTML telling Mr. Bot what's on our site, Mr. Bot will have no issues finding and connecting all the content. Now, what do I mean by HTML? Let's take a look. So it's important for us to use these three things. One is semantics. That is, if it's a text, use a paragraph tag. If it's a specific heading, then use the correct heading matching to that specific relevancy. Use an anchor tag for links. And also add relevant title and description in meta tags. So let's take a look at this specific example. Now, when I do go here, back to Google search results, the first item here for me is a Starbucks store locator. And this makes sense because I do visit Starbucks a lot. Now let's open that site up. Now, one thing you do notice that we see this as a title and this is the body, right? Now, you will notice that this title is something that came from the HTML title tag, and this specific text right here is from a meta tag description. So let's take a look. So now in the store locator, if I right click and open DevTools, under elements, I'm just going to skip to the head. Now in head, let's search for title. And there you go. You can see that how this title is what we saw right here. Similarly for description, if we were to search description, you will see that there is a meta tag named description, and this is the content itself. So that's exactly how Mr. Bot is essentially going to find the title, the description. But at the same time, it's also important that this description has some relevancy based on your search query as well. And also, your images need to have a proper alt tag. Now, Mr. Bot has no idea how your site looks like. They're only going to look at your HTML content. All they are going to see is there is an image, and let's reference the alt tag to see what's in the image. So it's important that your alt tag is also descriptive. Now, there's a lot more that Mr. Bot does, but this is just a basic gist of it. And once it finds and discovers everything that's on the page using proper HTML tags, it will store that analysis in the database. And this is why you can see that using proper HTML semantics is so important. Now, once it stores things in the database, it's then going to also give it some sort of a score. Now, it uses different techniques to score different things. So, for example, one is a click-through rate, that if the user has clicked on a page or not. A bounce rate, how many times did the user click back? Did they click and go back? And you want the bounce rate to be lower, whereas the click-through rate to be higher. Lastly, dwell time, that is how much time has the user spent on the site. And there's lots more than this. Once it stores the analysis in the database, when you search for something like find coffee stores, it is essentially going to serve you the highly ranked pages based on user's location, language, and device. And this is how Mr. Bot is working in the background. And this is how SEO works. Now you can see why it's so important that our HTML semantics are accurate, but at the same time, adding the correct meta tags and so on in our site. With Next.js, all this stuff becomes a lot easier, as you already learned that we can update the title within the page itself. Now there's lots more to it that we will explore later in the course as we try to build a site that follows all the SEO practices. But for now, I'll see you in the next one.